Good morning. Recently, I talked about installing systems on the floor. Now we'll discuss the installation of ventilation risers, meaning the pipes that connect the distribution boxes between two floors, the lower and upper, and we'll also go over the installation of the entire air distribution system. Boxes, ducts, pipes within the structure, that is, in the space of the suspended ceiling, within the framework of a drywall suspended ceiling. We're at the next stage, the next part of the installation. Today, we'll be installing distribution boxes to distribute air throughout the floor. So, the boxes will be installed in such a way that the entire system runs along the profiles of the suspended ceiling. The plenum boxes, distribution boxes, or even the ducts themselves will later be covered with insulation in the form of mineral wool. But right now, we also need to connect the boxes that were distributed in the floor, on the screed in the acoustic insulation, with the boxes that will be installed in the suspended ceiling. At the moment, we have a collision with a profile for the drywall boards along the way, so that profile needs to be removed, shifted, or installed differently so that we can run the conduits, the pipes, in this case, EPS pipes, to connect, so that we can connect the second set of distribution boxes. That's more or less how it looks at the moment. Here we also have a collision between the sockets, so the flanges need to be moved so that we can bring the connecting pipes for the supply and exhaust as close as possible to the distribution boxes. So that's the task for today. In the meantime, we'll be recording and showing how we solve this. Let's get to work. The entire air distribution system, pipes and boxes, is mounted on the suspended ceiling structure, and in this case, we're using a floor socket box to mount it directly onto the suspended ceiling framework. How? Why like this? Because the connection stub on the box is 4 centimeters, we use one extra profile. The height of this profile is 2.5 centimeters. The thickness of the drywall is 12 millimeters, so we fit perfectly within the height of the stub. After installing the drywall, we actually mount the diffuser frame into this coupling right here, and then the diffuser itself. So, by taking advantage of the construction features of the floor plenum box, we install it on the ceiling in exactly this way. This is one of the options. Why is that? Because we want the entire installation, the boxes, the ducts, the distribution boxes, to be mounted in a warm space. So in this case, the whole installation, the boxes, and the pipes will be additionally covered with 10 centimeters of wool insulation. So the boxes will be under the insulation, meaning they'll be in a warm space, which reduces losses during the transfer of air from the plenum boxes to the manifold and then to the heat recovery unit. So this is one of the recommended and suggested installation methods, keeping in mind the principle of installing in the warm zone. So we can install the floor box on the structure of the suspended ceiling. We've removed the profile that was in the way so we could install the pipes vertically, so after this removal, we're preparing the next parts. So we'll be drilling holes for the brackets dedicated to the EPS pipes, so that we can run the boxes up, the pipes upwards, making it possible to connect the distribution boxes. Using the previously prepared project, where we have the supply points drawn out as plenum boxes, both supply and exhaust, as well as the routing of the ducts along the frame structure, we now select the appropriate distribution box for the system on the supply side and on the exhaust side, so that we can install everything exactly according to the project. We prepare the EPS pipe to connect the upper distribution boxes with the lower ones. The height between the boxes is 2 meters and 70 centimeters. To avoid collisions at the flanges, it's best if we shift the pipes like this. So now we need to adjust this pipe accordingly, and here we have 2 meters. We're missing 70 centimeters. So from this side, yes, we have 70 centimeters here. So let's cut one piece with the flange, and just move the other one by those 10 centimeters to avoid collisions at the flanges on the EPS pipes. One of the tools you can use to cut EPS pipes is definitely a saw. A regular handsaw, but for plastics. For cutting plastics you can also use an angle grinder with a metal cutting disc, but in this case it burns the EPS pipe, or there are also discs available for angle grinders specifically for cutting plastics and styrofoam, which you can mount on the angle grinder. Here, in this case, we only need to make 2 cuts, so a regular handsaw is enough to get the job done. We transfer the center lines from the pipes coming out of the distribution boxes to the vertical pipes, so we mark the appropriate measurements on the wall. We can also utilize a precise level to meticulously check if everything is perfectly vertical, then carefully draw a perfectly straight line and accurately mark it out so that we can precisely install the essential anchors along this clearly defined line. These robust anchors will securely hold the sturdy brackets that will effectively keep the EPS pipe perfectly vertical, ensuring it doesn't shift or move from its intended position, so it remains firmly in place, and consequently, we can properly and efficiently install the electrical boxes. When it comes to brackets for EPS pipes, it's best to mount them on the wall in such a way that they grip the EPS pipe just under the flange, so that the pipe can't move at the connection point. As for the connection itself, here you need to apply ventilation acrylic in this spot to ensure the connection is sealed at the flange. We've installed the dowel sleeve in the wall. Now we need to somehow secure the bracket dedicated to the EPS duct. We can do this in several ways, including using a rod, the so-called double-threaded rod, or we can also use a threaded rod, which I commonly call a stud. So we can measure out the right length, cut it, and mount the bracket on it. To ensure proper tightness of the installation on the spigot of the distribution box coming out from below, to seal it we can apply ventilation acrylic, or we can also apply ventilation acrylic here inside the EPS duct and slide it onto the spigot that comes out of the distribution box. We can temporarily secure it like this, with a zip tie. As a crucial reminder, according to the detailed instructions and recommendations, to ensure optimal tightness at the belt connection of the EPS duct, ventilation acrylic should be carefully applied to the flange at this precise point to ensure the complete tightness of the EPS pipe connections. Press it so that the lock catches to make sure the seal is correct, and that's it. We have already assembled the EPS pipes connecting the distribution boxes. The pipes will be stabilized to the wall using mounting brackets, and we use zip ties, commonly called trick key, with the brackets. And now you need to tighten the zip ties as much as possible, because the zip tie holds the pipe structurally. The best place to install the zip tie is near the connection of 2 pipes to stabilize and block any movement of the pipes relative to each other, as well as vertically, so they can't be moved. This is what the prepared installation looks like. We're tightening the zip ties now, so we have the manifold system connected, the lower manifold with the upper manifold in both the supply and exhaust systems. Please remember to seal properly, either using ventilation acrylic in the flanges. And I think that's everything when it comes to the key issues regarding the installation of EPS pipes. I suggest and recommend installing pipes in the EPS system, because here we have self-supporting insulation through which air flows in the ventilation system, that is, the EPS pipe. We are at a site where the air distribution system pipes are routed along the structure of the suspended ceiling frame. Here on my right side, we have the distribution boxes installed, from which the ducts run along the structure under the suspended ceiling to the individual plenum boxes. A common question is whether these pipes should be somehow fastened or held in place along the structure. Yes. If there's a bend somewhere, then we can secure them with zip ties, the so-called trick key, to maintain the shape of the pipe. However, the pipe itself or the installation made with plastic conduits does not transmit vibrations, which means it also doesn't transfer any noise to the aluminum structure of the suspended ceiling. So when it comes to acoustic insulation or any kind of vibration isolation, with this kind of solution, there's no need for it. Here we already have the box installed, the boxes are already connected, and in this room, this is a bathroom, we've already installed 2 exhaust boxes. That box over there, by the wall, is installed in the space where sinks with mirrors will be underneath, so moisture from there will be removed. And is the second box installed in the middle of the room? That's partly because, in this room, the interior design has already been done by an interior architect, so these boxes are matched, among other things, to the lighting points, meaning the lighting. It's also worth keeping in mind that besides the technical aspect, there's the visual aspect as well, making sure these boxes are aligned, in line with some other distinctive point, or that they don't take up space needed for other elements, like a light fixture or other lighting points. So when it comes to installing on a suspended ceiling structure, the first and most important thing to keep in mind is that the entire system, the pipes and boxes, should be installed within the warm space of the building, meaning in a heated, insulated area. Just to remind you, in this case, an additional layer of about 10 to 15 centimeters of mineral wool will be laid over the pipes to provide extra insulation. Even though the entire roof space is already insulated with spray foam. But to separate the attic space of the unused loft from the rest of the building, there will be an additional layer of insulation laid over the entire air distribution system, meaning over the pipes and boxes. The next stage is the installation of the recunit rec recuperator and the ducts connecting the recuperator to the system.